Hey guys, it's Katie with S&B, and today I'm going to show you how we installed this particle separator on this 2018 Polaris General. We're going to start by taking all of the seats out of the vehicle, and to do that you're going to reach your hand between the cushion and the back, lift up on the lever, and pull out. Next we're going to remove the hood by turning the latches, lifting up the back and sliding forward. Now we're going to remove the center console access panel by removing the two fasteners. In order to remove the back center console, we had to remove 6 fasteners from both sides, along with 2 fasteners underneath both of the armrests. Then you'll lift up the back, disconnect the 12-volt accessory cable, and remove. Remove the battery cover and disconnect both terminals. Now I'm going to remove the bolt that's securing down the battery hold-down bracket. Once you remove that bolt, you can slide the battery towards you and forward in order to gain access to the CVT and intake hoses. Lift the dump bed by firmly pulling up on the release lever. And then remove the pin to give yourself a little bit more working room. Now we're going to remove the CVT duct hose by removing the hose clamp completely. Then you can remove the hose from the duct, and you can gain access to the back of the hose from the wheel well, and you'll repeat the process for the intake. Now we're going to remove the intake tube from the vehicle by loosening the hose clamp attached to the intake box and removing and lifting up. Find the drill template at the end of the instructions and cut it out. You're going to take your template and align it with the top and the curved edge, and then you'll take a center puncher awl and mark the center. Using the provided hole saw, drill a hole in the back panel. Use a knife or a razor blade to clean up the edges, and then take the panel seal and put it in place. Install the coupler onto the intake box. Tighten down the clamp on the intake box, leaving the other one loose. Insert the intake tube through the back panel of the vehicle into the coupler and tighten down the clamp. The logo on the intake tube should be facing forward. Install the coupler onto the end of the intake tube 2 that does not have the S&B logo, and then install it onto intake tube 1. Then you're going to take the provided spacer and hardware and secure the tube to the roll cage bracket. For a cleaner look, go ahead and press the wire harness into the retaining tabs before inserting the adapter. Apply a little bit of thread locker before tightening down the screws. After installing the adapters on both sides, it's time to determine whether you want to install the particle separator above the roof or below. For the purpose of this video, we're going to install it below. After determining the angle of your L bracket, apply thread locker to your screw and tighten it down, making sure that it is fully seated in the grooves. If your General has a factory roof like this one, you're going to have to make these notches. So we're going to take the roof off and actually show you how we did it. So you start by removing these 2 screws. Once the screws are removed, you can then remove the bracket from the inside of the vehicle. To remove the front of the roof, if you have the factory speaker bar like this General does, you're going to remove the 2 bolts on top of the roof. And if you don't have the factory speaker bar, you're going to remove the 4 bolts in the visor area inside of the cab. Once all the hardware that was securing the roof down has been removed, you're going to go back, you're going to push up, and then slide it forward. Once the roof has been removed from your vehicle, you can then take a measuring tape and measure out 9 inches to figure out what section you're going to cut out. Once you have that determined, you're going to take a hacksaw and cut in between the support ribs. And then you're going to take a utility knife and heavily score the bottom and push it forward, and it'll just snap out. While the roof is off, it does make it easier to install the 2 straps. followed by the adapters. Once the adapters are installed, note there will be a gap, and you can just slide it over. Install the pivot bodies into the straps using the provided hardware, and don't worry about using the thread locker this time because it does have a locking nut. Install the particle separator L brackets into the pivot bodies by starting the screws. Before tightening, apply thread locker. Double check that all the screws and lock nuts are tight and holding the particle separator securely to the roll cage, and then reinstall the roof and all the related mounting hardware. Insert one end of the flex duct over the intake tube and fold over the other side to the plenum of the particle separator. Add about 3 inches, and that's where you're going to cut it. Puncture in between the 2 reinforcement wires and cut all the way around. Use heavy-duty wire cutters to cut through the reinforcement wire. Install the end cuff onto each end of the flex duct, followed by the black clamps. And then you'll install them one side onto the particle separator and one side onto the intake tube. Feed the fan connector end of the wiring harness through the small access hole where the battery cables are in the front of the vehicle. Feed enough through so you can access it from underneath. From under the vehicle, feed the wiring harness on top of the intake tubes through the center console access panel. Find the wiring harness in the center console access panel and feed it all the way through the vehicle into the engine bay. Find the wiring harness and then route it up the firewall behind the airbox. Route the wiring harness through the access hole, up the roll cage, and through where you cut in the roof. Using cable ties, secure the wiring harness away from any exhaust components or moving components that could potentially damage it. Zip tie the relay to other wires under the hood to keep it from moving around. Locate the bus bar under the hood and remove the 3 terminal retaining nuts. Install the 3 ring terminals onto the bus bar. Install the battery on the driver's side, the ground in the center, and the accessory on the passenger side. And then reinstall the 3 terminal retaining nuts. Reinstall the CVT duct back into the vehicle. You can access it one side through the wheel well and one side through the battery compartment. Reinstall the clip and pin securing the damper to the dunk bed. Reinstall the battery and then reconnect the terminals. Once you have those, reinstall the battery cover. Reinstall the back center console. Reinstall the center console access panel. Reinstall the hood. Last but not least, reinstall all the seats. Just double check to make sure all the connectors are plugged in and secure, and then turn the ignition on to make sure that the fan is blowing out of the exhaust port, and if it is, then you're all good to go. So I hope this video helped, and if it didn't, you can always chat us in on our website or you can always give us a call, and I'll see you next time.